Hello. Before mechanical clocks appeared in the 14th century, and in most places for a considerable time afterwards, the shadow cast by the sun was used to calculate time. Sundials are in use in ancient Egypt, and there are biblical references in Isaiah and in the Book of Kings. And time was not quite the governing factor that it is today back in the Middle Ages. The Anglo-Saxons divided their day into simple periods, such as morning tide or evening tide, for example. But there was a need to get church services organised in a timely fashion, and you can find mass dials on the south side of many medieval churches. The British Sundial Society has got a mass dial section. It's been recording them, and the last time I checked they'd catalogued well over 2,000, and they think there may be as many again still waiting to be found. They're commonly 8 or 9 inches across, so about the size of a saucer, near a door, south facing and at eye height. There is a problem, of course, because many dials have been repositioned. Perhaps they've been rescued during restoration and then replaced in an inappropriate position. Some of them have found their way indoors, some of them have been replaced upside down. This inverted sundial is at St John's Church, Little Missenden in Buckinghamshire. And often they're barely noticeable. They've been exposed to the weather for centuries. Some are finely carved, but most surviving medieval dials are plain and uncomplicated. They're generally known as scratch dials. Later models have become more sophisticated and more precise. And on scratch dials, a central hole is usually all that remains to show where the gnomon, the protruding peg that casts the shadow, once fitted, and incised lines indicating the hours radiate from this hub. As you look at the dial, the morning hours are on the left of the vertical noon line. And generally, the older the dial, the simpler the design. This dial at St Andrew's Church, Bishopstone in East Sussex, is a possible exception to that rule. If the inscription to Edric, who was a king of Kent, is contemporary, it dates to the end of the 7th century. Here the hour lines with crosses mark the canonical hours. Lord's is missing because that was observed before daybreak, but then we have prime, tierce, sext at noon, nones and vespers, and the last divine office compline sung after sunset. However, that they are sundials and redundant at night doesn't prevent some from having the whole of the day marked. This one is at St Peter's Church, Leckhampton in Gloucestershire. The latest scratch dials date to around 1600 and may include numbers. This one is at Boxgrove Priory in Sussex. More modern sundials are a feature of many parish churches. One of the finest and most complex adorns St Lawrence's Church at Eyam in Derbyshire. It was the gift of the church wardens in 1775, and it has a Latin motto, Induce animam sapientem, exhorting us to encourage spirit and wisdom. And in addition to indicating local time, there is a graph on the face which shows noon at various locations around the world, including Mecca, Constantinople, Quebec and Mexico City. And for those with sufficient expertise to decipher the information, it also gives astrological and astronomical data. One of the oldest mechanical clocks still in working order can be found in Wimborne Minster in Dorset. The case is Elizabethan, but the movement dates back to round about 1320. And this also gives astronomical information, but from a time before the workings of the solar system were understood. And even when clocks began replacing them as timepieces, as well as being decorative, sundials may have remained useful for resetting mechanical clocks in the days before Greenwich Mean Time and the Pips time signal. Now, so far we've been looking at vertical dials. A more traditional horizontal dial made by Derby clockmaker John Whitehurst in 1767, stands on a tall pillar in the churchyard of St Leonard's Church at Thorpe in Derbyshire. And you have to stand on tiptoe to read this, so its height suggests it was intended for viewing from horseback. And there is a dial at St John's Church, Tideswell. It is probably set on the recycled base of a medieval churchyard cross. Some later dials are commemorative. There is a dial at St Anne's Church in Baslow, which is a memorial to Lieutenant Colonel Edward Wrench, who became the village doctor in 1862 after active service as an army surgeon serving in India and in the Crimea. Time to go. Next time I'm going to look at fonts. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.